Let's talk about this bizarre ongoing narrative that working from home parents are somehow responsible for the rise in school absences. Ofsted has recently warned that working from home parents may be behind this trend, and more recently, Bridget Phillipson, the Secretary of State of Education, has also added to this narrative and has accused parents for having a casual attitude towards school attendance. I find this whole thing absolutely ridiculous, and instead of looking at the systemic issues that are causing school disengagement, the government is quick and easy to point fingers at parents who are trying to balance work life and also family life. And it's like they're pushing this idea and narrative that working from home parents are just so lazy that they're just randomly keeping their kids off school for no reason, while ignoring that a lot of school refusal and a lack of attendance from a lot of pupils is actually a reaction to the school system itself. So is this really about attendance, or is it simply a refusal to accept that education needs to evolve with society? Families are evolving, and so should our perception of education. So today I want to share my 2 cents and break down why this narrative is so unfair, and also share why this shift can be seen as something important for the health of society. First, let's take a look at the bigger picture. School attendance has been declining ever since the pandemic, and the government has been trying their hardest and scrambling at trying to pull those rates back up. But instead of actually addressing the problems that children may be facing and struggling with in school, such as stress, the mental health crisis, and the lack of flexibility, the government seems to think the solution is to blame parents. I'm not really surprised. I don't know if anyone else is, but here we are. Of course, everyone's struggling, and somehow it's only the working from home parents that we've got to point fingers at and blame for the rise in school absences. Ofsted recently suggested that children of working from home parents are more likely to miss school, as if the mere presence of a parent being at home is the reason why their child's not attending school, and there's not possibly a million other reasons why. This just completely ignores the fact that it's not just a random choice that parents are making on a whim. It's most likely a response to a system that's failing families. Bridget Phillipson has said, "It's not okay to just say, it's only a Friday, you don't need to go to school today. Every day at school matters, and parents have responsibilities too." Let's just break this down, okay? Because this is insane how she was bold enough and had the audacity to say something like this. First of all, the phrase "every day at school matters" is frustrating because if it were true, why is the school system failing? Why are schools crumbling? Why would I want to send my child to school where the school system's failing? And not every single school is failing and crumbling, but there's so many now that are crumbling that it's almost like a lucky dip that you put your child into. If every day mattered, every school would matter, and no child would be failing and nowhere would be struggling. Why are so many children failing and struggling? Why are the schools struggling to meet the needs of every single child, and especially SEND children? It makes no sense to just go, working from home parents, they don't know what they're doing. They're just being lazy, because working from home already is lazy. That is the narrative that is literally kind of almost being spun here, and it doesn't make any sense. These parents know they can get in trouble, of course they do, but at the end of the day, they are risking that because they know keeping their child off from school on a particular day, especially when they're working from home, is doing them good. Because I'm giving Bridget Phillipson the benefit of doubt here. I want to be kind and just give her a little bit of space and think, maybe she somehow talked to so many parents, like the huge majority of parents she's spoken to. I'm gonna guess if she has spoken to them, they've all somehow admitted that they're just too lazy to send their kid in on a Friday. But from what I've seen, all these parents from school children families, none of them are saying that. So in my head, I'm like, how has she spoken? If she's spoken to these parents, how has she just so happened to have spoken to the parents who were openly missing that they're being too lazy to send their kid on a Friday? I don't know. I just think that's ridiculously lazy for her to even claim that. And again, I've not seen anywhere so far. She's not clarified how many parents she's spoken to, if any. And it's really lazy for her to just claim that and point fingers at working from home parents, because they are doing their best. A huge majority will be doing their best. And it's really frustrating that we have someone like a woman in this type of power and she's saying crap like that. It really infuriates me, and it does my head in. I'm like, you've got such a good position to be in power, in politics, and you are yapping like this, you are saying crap like this, and it's upsetting families who send their children to school, and it's not making them any more happier and more feeling more empowered and feeling like, you know what, I'm going to listen to her. It's doing the complete opposite. It's like as soon as you're in politics and you're that high up, all you ever do is just yap. Have you even taken a second to think about what you're going to say? Because it's so awful when the education system, the school system is so bad in the UK that it's not doing good and it's failing so many families. And then we have someone like Bridget Phillipson using her platform and saying a whole load of crap. And second of all, her claim where she says that parents have responsibilities too is so awful and insulting. It's so patronising because working from home parents do have responsibilities and they are taking responsibility. People need to remember that children are people and they too can also get exhausted and burn out from a rigid education system that is so outdated with no flexibility, really horrible, harsh, high demands as well, and they get burnt out. And the parents who have the flexibility, such as working from home and keeping their child off from school, are giving those children the flexibility and break that the school system is not giving them. If anything, this should be an indicator on how we adapt to educate our children, how we look out for our children and look after them. Because again, families are evolving and so should education. Sir Martin Oliver has said that pandemic lockdowns and the phenomenon of home working was having an impact on pupil absences. So let's discuss post-pandemic changes in families and children's education. COVID-19 wasn't just a health crisis, it also became a cultural reset. Many families had to rethink how they spent their time, and for a lot of us, being at home more wasn't a negative, it was actually eye-opening. COVID-19 changed everything. It changed our routines, our priorities, and most importantly, how we view our time. It also created a lifeline gap for families of children who were struggling and not coping very well in the current school system and being failed by the very system that was promised to the parents to look after that child and not fail them. So why can't we embrace that shift in education? It's like saying adults deserve the flexibility and children don't, when children are the group of people who need it the most. We've seen studies showing how flexibility in working can improve mental health and productivity in adults, so why wouldn't it have similar benefits for children? Bridget Phillipson has also said, it's not just about your responsibility to your own child, but about the responsibility you have to the whole community and wider society. This is such an unfair, manipulative take. Like, it's so wild she's even said that. Like, it's so heavy and it's so deep to even say that. I can't even... Who allowed her to say that? That's insane, honestly. So let's break this down as well, because it's just so crazy and wild. The idea of keeping your child at home is somehow affecting the whole entire class is not the responsibility of the individual child's parents. It makes no sense at all, because does that mean when a child's off sick especially, that all of a sudden the whole class and the wider society are just going to crumble and fail? Is it your responsibility still then? If it affects the entire class and somehow the wider society, that is not a parent's fault at all. It's not the parents to blame. It's a systemic failure. It's as simple as that. That means something in the system is not coping very well when someone is off school and the parents kept their child from school, and lo and behold, it just so happens to be a Friday because the parent's working from home on that Friday. That is not their fault, and it's not them to blame, and it's not their responsibility if something in the classroom is not working very well just because their child is not there. I'm not going to lie, but the irony in this is staggering. It's so bad and awful, and I don't know why she doesn't see this herself with what she said. But basically, yes, our children are our own responsibility, but why is it then, if we are looking after them and taking care of them during school hours, why are parents being penalised for that? Like, make it make sense. You can't say parents have a responsibility, whether it's to work or obviously looking after their own child, and as soon as they look after their child during school hours, they now get penalised for it. Like, you also can't be saying these parents have a casual attitude when you are telling parents they have a responsibility, and when they take responsibility for their child in whatever context, that now apparently there's a casual attitude and this is why it's bad for society and it's bad for the whole class. Like, which is it? Which one is it? Because it doesn't make any sense. The logic isn't logicking. If anything, and more importantly, it's actually the government that has the most responsibility when it comes to individual classes and the wider society, not individual parents per se when it comes to school attendance. Like, I'm sorry, but it's actually crazy to shift the burden onto families while also refusing to acknowledge that it's actually the state's failure to make schools a place that children can thrive and actually want to attend. Besides, let's be real, we all accept that attendance fluctuates. Kids get sick, families have emergencies, and teachers even go on strikes and have teachers' training days, and yet schools still run. And I'm not saying that when teachers go on strike, it doesn't disrupt anything. Of course it does, but at the same time, those teachers have a right to go on strike, and we have to be listening to why they're going on strike. But at the same time, why is the government acting like a few kids not being in school on a Friday is going to somehow bring down the entire education system? Like, be for real, please. The truth is, it's just another way to shame parents into compliance and hide a deeper agenda, rather than fix and properly address what's broken in schools. And clearly, I'm not the only one who thinks this whole argument is ridiculous. I came across a post on NetMum's Instagram about Bridget Phillipson's comments, and let me tell you right now, a whole bunch of parents were not happy with what she said. Someone commented, "Would love to know the details of the research this is based on, as it sounds like correlation and not causation. Are parents who work from home more likely to give Fridays off to their children, or are parents who have children with complex needs, mental health issues and school avoidance more likely to seek out jobs that allow them to work from home so they can support those needs more easily?" So it's well established that children with SEND and mental health difficulties are more likely to have poor attendance. This is because the school system often cannot accommodate their needs. Some parents have to bend over backwards to organise their work around these needs and be there for their child. Someone else commented, "Absolute tosh." Tosh? Absolute tosh. This is another smear campaign to kill flexible working, which as a working mother is a godsend, but associating it with something that is a known issue, schools not able to cater for additional needs. Stop trying to cover up the issues. Our school system is not currently working for a number of children. Let's stop trying to take flexibility away, often from mothers, but not exclusively, who get some attempt at work-life balance, and start looking at why is the system not working and how we can start to address that. It is glossing over the fact that there is so many issues, and it's highlighting those issues, but the government is just trying to be like, nope, I'm just going to gloss over it and pretend these aren't issues. The real issue is just attendance, and the real issue, because of that attendance lacking in schools, is because of the parents working from home. Where is the evidence to suggest this? I'm sure most working from home parents want their kids at school when trying to work. Someone else has said, "Good grief, and this is why I have no faith in the system changing any soon." Me too. There is a very real reason why these children aren't attending, Bridget, and I can assure you it's not down to parents' casual attitude. I would invite you to do some real research and spend some proactive and real time with parents whose children have attendance difficulties to really ascertain the underlying causes for low attendance. Also, side note, education is compulsory, not school. Someone replied to that comment, "Ditto, education is necessary and learning doesn't only happen in school." And someone else replied, "Please find a way to officially get this message to her. Things like this drive me insane to read." I honestly start losing a few brain cells every time I read comments like what Bridget said, and I'm just like, there's no way you are like the Secretary of Education and you're coming out with things like that. Why is it always people who just have no brain cells themselves and lack critical thinking? It really annoys me because I'm like, how have you gone through life like this and you still come to this type of conclusion? Maybe if attendance is at an all-time low, they need to look at why. What is wrong with their school system that doesn't support the kids anymore? Maybe they need to understand the whole system and pressure of attendance needs an overhaul, and stop putting the pressure of the whole community onto an individual child. Exactly. I don't get how Bridget has put the two together to be like, well, I do get why, because she's trying to make that child and the parents feel bad that if they don't go to school, now the whole community is going to fail and it's your fault for not being in school. Someone replied to that comment, "Came here to say just this. The system needs an overhaul to be in touch with modern family life and to provide an education that children want to engage with." This is exactly what I'm talking about. And this is why, as well, when people start pointing fingers at home educators and saying they're wrong and da-da-da, I don't think they realise they're also another version of a reaction to the school system. There's also a comment about sending children to school and how obviously the school system's failed them, and so they have chosen to home educate. A lot of the time, it's also forced home education, like they are left with no choice because the school system just is not working with them and they don't know what else they can do. But obviously it's their child and it makes sense to take them out of the school system and have them at home. But that again is just basically a reaction to a failing school system. Here's a very interesting comment. "Is it April Fool's today? I'm confused. In what world does this happen? Again, blaming parents who work from home, mainly mothers who tend to do the lion's share of the caregiving." And so I find that very interesting because I don't really know what the numbers are and how many women are working from home compared to men. But obviously, a lot of women who are working will also be mothers, and they are the ones whose careers have obviously had to struggle or put on the back burner. And so when they are working from home, it creates flexibility in ways that they didn't get to have if they were working 9 to 5, 5 days a week while their child was in school. So I'm not saying there's no negative, irresponsible reasons where some parents do keep their child off for no actual good reason that you might deem to be responsible and sensible and all that. But I just want to talk about the positive reasons on why people might be keeping their kids off from school, because I feel like the government is only ever going to frame it in a way that makes it look negative. And because working from home already has a negative connotation to it from a lot of simple-minded people, these same simple-minded people will just go, aha, see, working from home is bad for everybody, and especially for our children. And I feel like if nobody's going to talk about the positives, I will talk about the positives. Again, just bear in mind, if you ever see anything like working from home and school absences and the government's talking about it, politicians are talking about it, just remember they're never going to really properly shed light on the positives on it. They're never going to do it because it means something in the school system isn't working, and they're not about to admit that, okay? So let's move on to the positives. I have notes for this because knowing me, I'm probably going to forget about them, so just bear with me. So I have my notes, and these are positive reasons why parents might keep their children home when they're working from home. None of these reasons are harmful or neglectful. So I just want to preface that because I know some people will be like, oh my God, there must be something in it that's going to be bad for the child or whatever. So let's go through them. Again, positive reasons why parents may keep their children off from home when they are working from home. Increased family bonding. You may wonder, how is that possible if a parent's working? But every family will work differently and look differently. So it's all down to that individual family, obviously, on how they're going to balance both things. We're all different, and that is exactly the point in a child's education, to have flexibility. Enhance well-being for the child. Some children do actually thrive better if they have breaks from the school environment, especially children who have SEND. So parents, compared to the school system, and even teachers, may recognise that their child needs these breaks from the school system to restore their mental balance and also to prevent long-term burnout. Flexibility during busy or unpredictable periods, recovery and mental health days. I don't think people realise as well, like a lot of these absences, even if they're unauthorised, are not just going to be done on a whim, and it's not like these parents aren't thinking it through properly. They're taking the risk of doing an unauthorised absence because they see better value in their child not being in school. So again, that says a lot more about the school system than the parent's responsibility. Anything unpredictable is going to happen as well. You can't ask a school in advance for something you cannot predict. It just doesn't work like that, does it? So it makes sense that if a parent's got the time off and the flexibility in it, and it also just so happens that that child can stay off on the same day because something's happened, why would you not take the opportunity? So personally, I think instead of just blaming parents, and especially working from home parents in particular, I would say we have to look at, are they just responding to something that's happening with their children? It's not like it's parents just doing silly things and doing silly parenting things and just being goofballs, is it? I'm sure most of them are actually responding to what their children need, and it's something that the school is not giving them. We can talk about attendance all day long, but the real question is, why are so many children disengaging from school in the first place? It's just funny to me because I feel like this whole situation is just highlighting how bad the school system is. And when Bridget Phillipson and Sir Martin Oliver say things about working from home parents, that is them reaching. It is them looking for something to blame and point fingers at. They are not acknowledging the real issues that families are facing in the school system. They are failing SEND students as well, and they are not caring at all. All it is the curriculum, it's data, it's numbers, it's tests, and it's not really about children's well-being and their health. And instead of hearing these parents out, they've just decided to take a group of parents, a particular group of parents, point fingers at them and go, you've got a casual attitude towards school attendance. You're the reason why school attendance is dropping. You're the reason why kids are failing and why the wider society is going to fail. It's insane. I don't understand how you can be so short-sighted and just be like, yeah, that's a good conclusion. That makes a lot of sense. It's crazy and scary as well. It also just further confirms that the government hasn't got the best interest in families or children either, especially children. Like, it's so easy for them to hide behind the school system and hide behind the fact that every children has a right to an education, and yet they get to hide behind the school system and say, yeah, this is where they get their education, so it's all the parents' fault if something bad is happening. It's not the government's fault. We can't possibly be at fault here. And it's really bad because it highlights it so much. It's really sad and frustrating that the government is also creating like subtle anti-work from home negative connotations by saying these are the parents who are making school attendances bad, and they don't seem to have a good attitude towards school attendance. It's really annoying because it's really easy for simple-minded people who don't think critically to also start going, see, working from home is bad for society because it's also affecting our children, and these are the parents who don't care about their kids. And it's the complete opposite. It's also treading a fine line on how we view home education as well, because obviously these children don't attend school anyway, and people already think parents are failing their children by not sending them to school. But it's like a lot of home educating families are just responding and reacting to a failing system. I mean, am I surprised that most people don't see this as a response and reaction to a bad failing school system? Probably not, because a lot of people don't seem to think critically. And when it comes to the school system and education for children, we are so conditioned to just go, yep, this is what needs to happen, and there's absolutely nothing outside of that, and anything that falls out of that little box of it is bad, it's demonic, we need to point fingers at them and say they need to get back in the system and mold them back into what we think. And it's so crazy because like when you're watching it from the outside, you're just like, you can't understand how people just don't see it. Change is happening and families have adapted, and it's about time that the school system does the same. Let's stop trying to take flexibility away from parents, which ultimately affects children and is something that a lot of children need. And let's stop demonising families that are simply trying to do their best for their children. And let's start looking at the actual failures of the school system that are pushing families to make these decisions in the first place. Let's stop treating alternative approaches, oftentimes out of necessity, as problems and start seeing them as an opportunity for growth. So what do you think? Do you think working from home parents are to blame for school attendance, or do you think the government is just simply being unfair? I'd love to know your thoughts, so please drop them in the comments below. And if you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to give it a like. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel also, and also turn on that notification bell so you never miss more content from me.